Today, my guest is Abhinav Agrawal, who's the CEO at Netchex, a people-first HCM platform built for hourly teams and mobile workforces. Abhinav, great to see you again.
Thank you, Joel. Thank you for having me.
I'm excited to have you on. What I think is really interesting, you have a really strong product background. That's where you came up in your career. You spent years as the chief product officer at Netchex. I'm really curious, how has stepping into the CEO role now, given your product mindset and your product background, how's that shaped the way that you're thinking about company strategy, customer value, growth, things like that?
Yeah, look, I think in general, I think having a product background is fantastic, right? Because I've spent the last few years getting really close to our customers and thinking through what is the innovation that they really want and being really focused on the kinds of solutions that they care about versus us caring about. I think it's very easy to get tempted into here's what we want to build because we think either it's cool or it's going to help the customer versus really listening to the customer on what do they want and what's going to make their lives better. And as an example, we're hyper focused on AI, but not AI for the sake of AI, but for how does it actually help the customer? I think as a product person, you intuitively get that and you're focused on that. There's a danger in it too, which is that when you're a product person, you think of everything as a product problem, right? And sometimes it's not product problems. Sometimes there are service problems or people problems or operations problems. And particularly for us, we pride ourselves on great service. They love the fact that it's simple. They love the fact that we have this verticalized focus and it appeals to them. We've built something really special for their industry. But the true reason they're switching to us is the service, right? And it's important to not forget that our key reason is that we offer better service. We'll pick up the phone 90% of the time within a minute. We have 98% CSAT satisfaction. So just bringing that warmth and human relationship into the business, I think is super, super important.
So that's a good segue. All right, you have legacy HCM systems in the space, you have some new entrants, you have some companies that have been around for maybe a decade or so that are like in this middle spot. So what do you think are some expectations that buyers should have for modern HCM systems right now in the marketplace?
I think if I were a buyer, I would think about, does this system solve the technology problems I have? And some of that is, what are the other integrations that I need it to be? What does my tech stack look like? If I'm a restaurant, okay, what am I using as my point of sale? Am I going to be able to import data from that seamlessly? If I'm a auto dealer, how do I think about which dealer management system I'm using? And how's that dealer management system going to interact with the software vendor that I'm going to choose? Because there's so much work that's going to flow across these systems. And many of the times that they don't work well together, whether your HR vendor doesn't offer that integration, or God forbid, the HCM vendor has a point of view that everything should be bought from them. And so they don't want to offer that integration. That's going to lead to a disaster. So I always tell people that's the number one criteria is how does it fit into your ecosystem? The second piece, in my opinion, of course, we talked a little bit about service, but I think service is key. I think payroll is very different than any other SaaS software I've ever been involved in. You and I were just joking about it, but we've gotten hundreds of paychecks in our life. If one was ever late, it would be terrible. We would have to, taxes were not correct, if the deductions were not correct. Yet in all the years that we've been working, we've never once thanked our payroll administrator that, hey, payroll ran on time when we got paid, right? We just expect it. It's a little bit like a utility or a bank. You turn on this, expect the power to be there. And that's how we expect payroll. But in order for that to happen, I think the service has to be top notch. The platform, of course, has to be great. But in any case of any trouble, any problems, you need to have a solution or a vendor that you can reach. So I think that's really important. I think the third one, in my opinion, is going to be around, again, going back to your needs. The big focus is around automation and workflows. I do think a lot of these systems are pretty clunky because, like you said, they're quite old. They haven't been rewritten. You don't have modern leaders managing tech debt in many of these platforms. Does it have a modern UX? Does it have a mobile app that my employees can use? Is it simple? I think people often underestimate simplicity. And again, it's very different because the kinds of workers are very different. The right solution for somebody who's a knowledge worker and is sitting on a desk and is going to, by the way, primarily access this on a computer is not going to be the right system for somebody in an auto dealership who's running around, who's only going to check it on their mobile phone, who, by the way, the company does not even give a device, who's using it on their own personal device, who doesn't have an email address from the company. Like, it's just a very different environment.
100%.
And so it has to be optimized for your employees, right? And there's no one size fits all. It's your tech stack, your employees, how many of them are in the field, how many of them are hourly. That makes a big difference. Many salaried people, we go our entire lives without thinking about time tracking. Like you don't have to punch in. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, you don't have to punch in and punch out for your job. That's not the reality for most Americans. Most Americans
Yeah.
punch in and punch out. They track their hours. The number of vacation days they get is accrued based on how much they work. Health insurance is based on kind of eligibility rules around how many hours you work. You have tip rules, you have minimum wage rules. So just that complexity is very, very different depending on your needs. So I'd say those are the modern characteristics that you have to expect all of those and think about automation and how does it make my life easy.
Yeah, just going to double down on your point about the service layer. It's so huge. It's a big differentiator for companies. That's where you get brand loyalty from. That's where you get like really high customer retention rates from. And like you said, payroll, it can work 99.99% of the time. That 0.01% of the time that it fails, it is disaster. Like huge disaster. Stakes could be higher.
That's how we think about it, Joel, is that there are going to be players that have great tech, they're massive, they've existed forever, great brand names, and they're probably the right solution for some people. If you're looking for international payroll, if you're 50,000 employees, like it's great. I think other players have focused on, we're going to give you great service, but historically they haven't had the full technology layer. Our point of view is we're in the middle. You don't have to choose. If we're the right for you from a industry and size perspective, and of course US focus, then you don't have to choose. We have people in the US payroll certified, fundamentals of payroll certified. We're a 20-year-old company, and I've been amazed at how many customers we've had from the early days, and they're here, they're happy. And when we go talk to them, there's this one person that he made me chuckle because he compared us to Nike and Apple, and I didn't know if he was trolling me or for real. And he really, for him, he's like, for my work stuff, it's like that. Like it just works, and you guys don't pull any shenanigans, and you don't try to raise rates on me crazy every year or do something nuts. And so we're happy. And that's what we think about every day is like, when you come to us, how do we make it your last implementation in payroll?